on behalf of the to welcome us in. Chairman of the Board of Directors, the Senator Fushi, the mic is yours.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. I am your North Carolina State Senator, Valerie Fushi, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the first ever virtual Black Women Leadership Luncheon hosted by the North Carolina Black Alliance. The Alliance, as we call it, is an intergovernmental network of African-American legislators, county commissioners, school board members, and municipal elected officials centered by commitment to ambitiously address broad issues of inequality and fairness. In my role as NCBA's board chair, I can truthfully say that we recognize all that you are doing as you lead your organizations to develop Black women who lead our communities to address education, health, the economy, social justice, and political issues. And I would also like to take the opportunity to acknowledge the phenomenal Black women leaders that serve on the NCBA Board of Directors. And they are Viola Harris, who is NCBA's Board Treasurer and Edgecombe County Commissioner, Renee Price, who is Chair of the Orange County Board of Commissioners, Valerie Jones, Mayor Pro Tem, Town of Sedalia. So thank you for sharing your precious time today. We hope that you enjoyed so much that you will learn more about us and join our efforts around this state. Again, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Senator Fushi. We were bonding. I was my usual silly, inappropriate self. We acknowledged our ties to one another. I am Frankie Denise Penn Powell Shakesha. I'm your hostess for today. In my role at the North Carolina Black Alliance, I'm Special Projects and Training Coordinator. And this is a special project, and I hope it flies, and we hope you enjoy it. As Senator Fushi says, it's our first. So let's look at it this way. You can't mess it up if it's our first. We can just improve it. I do want to do give a special hug and some love to Senator Fushi, because she's a special sister of mine. Senator Fushi just became a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Johnson is here. So we just can't mess up by not saying, on top of being a senator, you are a Delta. So everybody else can do what you do, do what you do. We're all here together and we all have ties, but that too. She's Senator, Board of Directors, and a Delta. So I do want to say that this occasion is for us, as Senator Fushi said, my sister, to us to gather, to appreciate one another, exhale, love on each other. A couple of people called and said, or texted, email, and said, so what am I supposed to do? I said, you're not supposed to do anything. We just want you to give that one sentence. We want you to, as I said, we're just gonna love on you. We know what we do, and we just want to gather to make sure everybody knows one another. Before we move into the rest of the program, and I don't know if we have the availability to show a little bit about what's supposed to happen today. Our first, and it will be the next thing, the next slide. The next slide, oops, that's it. So this is what we're doing today. We've had 45 minutes in the tech period. Very few of us had tech difficulty. So we kind of use that occasion to do what we usually do when Black women get together. meet one another, giggle and talk and share stuff. Um, the main point of the occasion is to answer that, to speak to that one sentence. What advice would you give to the next generation of Black women leaders? At that point, we'd like you to give your name, your organization, your role in that organization, and then the sentence that you've prepared. We're gonna just kind of, as the kids say, kick it a little bit. We did that some in the in while we were here from 11:15 to 10:15 to 11. We talked about different topics kind of bubbled up, the values of HBCUs, who we knew. And then the remaining of the program will be showing our appreciation of the shoulders we stand upon, the impact of Ms. Rosanelle Eaton, and a presentation that's been made, and we'll share it with you, Ms. Arminta Eaton, her daughter. And then we'll close up. Hopefully we have with us today a special treat that will happen at the end of the program. So if all hearts and minds, as we say, are on one accord, we'll dive into the introduction of the guest. And prior to doing that, some of you may or may not know Miss Ella Scarborough. So as we begin this assemblage of sisters, we'd like to first pause and recognize those who have gone on before us. One of those recently ancestors is Commissioner Ella B. Scarborough. Commissioner Scarborough made history as the first African-American woman to be elected to the Charlotte City Council, serving from 1987 to 1997 district and at large. She was also a statewide candidate for U.S. Senate in 1998 and ran for Charlotte mayor in 1999 and 2001. In 2008, Commissioner Scarborough served as a North Carolina delegate at the Democratic National Convention. In the 1960s, during her youth in South Carolina, she became known for her activity in the civil rights movement. Throughout her life, Ella Butler Scarborough was a pillar in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg community. She served on the Mecklenburg Board of County Commissioners since her election at large in 2014 until this year. From 2016 to 2018, she served as chair, the first African-American woman to be elected to that position. During her time on the board, Commissioner Scarborough advocated for youth literacy and to solutions for homelessness. She also chaired the Board of County Commissioners Economic Development Committee, a leader whose presence is felt among us today. So if we could take a moment in silence as we recall this ancestor's leadership. Thank you. Thank you. I want to give some special thanks right at the top. I promised that this would not be a regular 4 o'clock in the afternoon program. So we want to say thanks right now. And we want to give some special thanks to our planning committee. Veronica Hashton and Renee Sadler. These are folks here at our planning committee at Black Alliance that helped make this whole day possible, this morning possible. So they are 2 members of our events committee that put in lots of work. Volunteers, we want to say thank you to Reverend Marcus Fairley and to Marcus Bass Sr. for their work. And we couldn't leave out our contributors, Dion Lester and Katisha Phillips. Kudos, thank you. you made all this happen. So we appreciate you. We really do appreciate you. So thank you. Um, I'm the one that I'm a Frankie Beverly and Mays girl. I know Beyonce did the remix of Before I Let You Go. But Frank, at this stage, and we appreciate that, you know, my generation, we love it. You know, you heard it enough at the family cookouts and reunions and the wedding party stuff. So we appreciate that. Don't know if you appreciate as much joy and pain. Um, and when I see us here and in our collective, I know that we all have experienced joy and pain. We've had some sunshine and rain. Dawn and Deborah touched on that as we were, you know, gathering to do the tech check. Um, we know that for some of us, we're celebrating centennial years. We've been around that long. And we've come through that. We've come through the onset of this plague of COVID, to the springs and summers of our uprising, our joy in watching our ascendance to vice presidency and associate Supreme Court justices, to now Roe versus Wade 2.0, more assaults on our children. So we know about some joy and some pain, also sunshine and rain. But like us, Miss Seeley said at the end of The Color Purple, what did she say? I still here. I still here. And we are still here. And Letha, you and Don were talking about earlier, raising up a generation of young people to be leaders. And so we hope that while we're still here, we all are doing that, whatever our age and stage is, that we're all working towards that. So we at North Carolina Black Alliance are so very proud and pleased that you've achieved, in spite of, you're giving your bold leadership in spite of, and that you're here today in spite of. We know we got folks in the car, we got folks struggling to be here, folks that have had trouble getting on, people asking me questions in the chat about technology. I have no clue, but we do have a young man who's here that is handling all of that. So we thank you for being here in spite of. I want to acknowledge some folks who, because we are all kinds of women. Most of us are here because we have organizational ties across the state of North Carolina. We do. And we do have a guest who just said, I heard about it. Somebody told me to come, and she dropped in, and we told her to put her small business information in the chat. I hope she has. I'm not quite monitoring that just yet. But we do want to, we know that we're going to make a presentation to Ms. Rosnell Eaton for her work over the decades. We also, we especially want to acknowledge Joyce Johnson. Joyce Ann Hobson Johnson, as I call her by her whole name. I told people I've known her for 50 years. There's been a lot of joy and pain, right, Joyce? But Joyce has been out struggling and doing something. She told us earlier from her college days at Duke University, and never stopping, still isn't stopping, still doing all kinds of stuff in Greensboro, crossed with national. And at this point, it's hard. Joyce, don't you have international ties? So we want to welcome you. Thank you as a special guest for holding it down since before I met you. We also want to honor as a special guest, Miss Bree Newsom Bass. She's my new superhero. I know some of us didn't have functions in South Carolina because of that state flag. We boycotted. We didn't go there. Well, in 2015, this young lady went up and tore it down. From what I recall her saying, she it was right after the Charleston massacres. It was on her heart. It was in her spirit. And she had what I like to call fortitude. She had the strength to do it. She also had physical ability, right? So she went on up and grabbed it. So Joyce and Bree, if you'd like to come off mic and say something, please do. If not, we're just happy to know that Joyce has done all those things, um, and Bree is just beginning to do some things. But if you little icon never do anything else, you've done enough, and we appreciate you. Did either of you want to say anything?
Thank you. I wanted to invite Bree, who is a heroine of mine as well.
And
now, for those of you who get our annual report, you'll see her son on our annual report. So we just claim her and Marcus in a generational way. So Bree, why don't you?
oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I just really appreciate it. I appreciate this space. I think this is so necessary. I think this is beautiful. I was laughing when Dr. Powell said Marcus Bass Senior, because he's senior now because we got a junior. And Dr. Joyce Johnson, to be recognized and honored alongside a figure like Dr. Joyce Johnson, like I'm just here. I'm standing on the shoulders of so many other people. I'm standing side by side with all of you. Y'all are amazing. I think most of you I've probably crossed paths with in this space. I think what we're doing in North Carolina is beautiful, is powerful, is coming in, a long tradition like Ella Baker, like so many others. So what greater honor is there than to be recognized by other Black women who are fierce and who are, leading the fight. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I join that with Bree. I wanted her to go first because she is younger than most of us on this. I know you're here, LA, and a few others, but I am just blessed to still be part of this movement, which I joined as a teenager, really, in Richmond, Virginia, and then came to North Carolina and did what my mom said I was going to do. She said, you're going to get down there and marry somebody in North Carolina and won't ever come back home. So, as mothers, and we now mothers, a lot of us, and grandmothers knew the truth. But I'm honored to serve in this state. This is a purple state, they say. That means a whole lot of colors, just like Black, has it all. So we have the opportunity to continue leading this country toward a transformative change that we so sorely needed. And we women, particularly we Black women, are going to have to be, like we traditionally have been, a part of that. So thank you to Dr. Powell and North Carolina Black Alliance, all of you for being on this call. This is one of the many steps we'll look back on that made the difference in us coming together to make a difference in this country for our children, our precious grandchildren, and really people the world over. So thank you.
Thank you for being here. My two bookends, my Sanko for where we've been and where we going and what we are doing, all in the middle. Appreciate it. And I'm jealous. I'll have to, nobody told me about the newsletter. I guess I didn't read it, Joyce, when it came in my email. I was so busy doing this. So I got to see a picture of the baby, okay, of Junior, got you. Right now, everybody's here. And so if possible, and if this is the intent, our tech people are handling it, but I'd like for you to come off mic and introduce yourselves. I know we're in the habit of putting it in the chat, but introduce yourselves. my screen is a little crazy. So I'm just going to go down my list if you don't mind. And then if you'd introduce yourselves by my list, and forgive me if I leave anybody out, just please introduce yourselves. So if we'll remember, it's your name, it's your organization, your role in that organization, and what is it that you would tell, in one sentence, what is it that you would tell the next generation of leadership? Dr. Senator Fushi, I see you right there. My board of directors chair, I guess I better ask you first. I told you. I don't, I'll mess up protocol. I'll mess up protocol in a minute, but I think I got this one right.
I am happy to go first. I would simply say, trust God, believe in yourself, and persevere.
Thank you. Queen DeGraff and Reed.
Okay. Queen DeGraff and Reed, State President of National Council of Negro Women, serving my 4th term in 25 years. You think I would have learned by now, but I'm still at it. And she asked me for a minute presentation or something. So I'm accustomed to writing things out. So I wrote out the message I would leave to the next generation is to have an impact. I mean, be innovative, stay relevant. All that hadn't changed, but a lot has changed. Be a messenger for the M. That means be knowledgeable, be a mentor, and leave a legacy. P means, as Dr. Bear McLeod Bethune talked about, purpose for people. We have to stay purposeful and progressive. And she defines progressive as the progress of the world will call for the best that all of us have to give. The A means advocacy and action. Talk the walk and walk the talk. Be a compassionate leader. Maya Angelou said, people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And T means technologically savvy. We have to reach all generations to reach and teach the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Queen, in every sense of the term. Dr. Dillard. Dr. Paulette Dillard.
Thank you. I am Paulette Dillard, the 18th president of Shaw University, founded in 1865. I will also pull the words of Mary McLeod Bethune in my advice to the next generation of women leaders, in that she said, if you have the courage and tenacity of our ancestors who stood against the horrors of slavery, you will be able to do for this generation what they did for theirs.
Thank you. The ever effervescent dynamo, Dawn Blagrove.
I think what I would say to the younger folks or somebody behind me is to don't be afraid to stand unapologetically in your own power. Do not believe or shake off the cloak of insecurities, the cloak of not enoughness that being a Black girl in America can give you. Stand in your power, stand in your leadership, trust your gut, and always, always, always leave the world better than you found it.
Thank you, Dawn. Everybody may not know which organization you represent or your role.
I am Attorney Dawn Blagrove. I am the Executive Director of Emancipate NC, which is an organization committed to ending systemic and institutional racism and abolishing mass incarceration.
Thank you. Somebody needed to know that part. Miss Lori Gittens.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lori Gittens. I am the 10th and most immediate past national president of Swing 5 Swing Social Fellowship Incorporated. I have the distinct honor today of representing founder Sister Ellen Tomlinson Carter. She asked me to stand in her stead, and I'm just honored to be here with such dynamic women. So in terms of our organization, a piece of advice that we would give to future leaders simply aligns with our motto. Our national motto is perseverance by virtue. Keep fighting, keep pushing. That's what we're all about. Do not accept just what is given to you. Demand more for yourself, demand more for your community, and you will have an impact on future generations and the quality of life that we all live. So that would be our one quick, brief piece of advice to future leaders.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ellen and I giggle all the time. She is the most humble founder that I know. And
Yes.
I guess I also need to say she's the only founder that I know.
Well, she is my shero. So when she called, I was like, yes, founder, like I was back online.
So, right, my very own Dr. Trish Johnson. Trish, maybe you got to me. I get to call her Trish sometimes. Today, I think I may get to call her Trish. I never got to meet one of our founders. Maybe you did, but you're here today. So you want to tell everybody who you are and all that, and take your turn?
Good morning, and what a pleasure it is. And I'm Trish always, that never matters. It is certainly a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm Trish Johnson. I am the Regional Director of the sensational South Atlantic region of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, which includes the Commonwealth of Virginia, the great states of North Carolina, South Carolina, and the beautiful island of Bermuda. There are about 12,000 of us in this region, and we certainly continue to march forward with women issues, as well as making a difference in our communities for all people. If I had to give any words of wisdom or encouragement to future generations, it would be to first know yourself. Second, always be true to yourself. And third, be sure to take care of yourself, because we cannot serve others unless we are at our best. So anything that we do, we put forth our best when we take care of ourselves. And the last thing that I would always remind anyone to do is to listen more than you speak. We certainly gain wisdom and more information, and we're more accurate with our what we share with others when we can know what we're speaking, and we speak truth always. So if I had to leave any words of wisdom for those behind me, I would say those things, and always reach back to bring someone forward. Never forget to be a mentor to those that we serve and that those who work alongside of us. Thank you so much, and it's my pleasure.
Thank you, thank you. Coming now is Miss Kathleen James Judd. Kathleen.
Hello, I am Kathleen Judd. I am the CEO of Mary Judd Dreams, the theologian in residence at Prince of Peace, where we do food justice work. And I am the presidential fellow for Shaw University Divinity School, one of two. My advice to emerging leaders would be, when it's terrifying, when people shame you, when you barely understand it yourself, when you're shaking and when your voice is cracking, trust the divine within you and don't back down.
And that's a whole divinity message in one sentence. Thank you. My sister, Jennifer Conglington, you're up.
Good morning, my sisters, to each of you. A beautiful Saturday morning. And I want to say greetings to you from Glenda Glover, our international president of Alpha Kappa Alpha and president of Tennessee State University. And I am the 19th Mid-Atlantic Regional Director of Alpha Kappa Alpha, serving the state of North Carolina and the Commonwealth of Virginia. So many of you, I see my sisters as we work together in this vineyard. God bless each of you. What I would say to the next generation of leaders is to be intentional about those that you allow to speak in your life and that you allow on your front row. Stay sold out for God and help lift others up as you climb. Remember that eagles soar with eagles. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know that there are probably some North Carolina Central folks in the room doing all this kind of stuff. See, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I just knew it. Okay, I did. So, Ms. Thomasina Gore, Esquire, and the NCCU Proud Eagle. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, my sisters. I am Thomasina Gore, and I am the 23rd Regional Director of the notable Northeastern region of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. I also bring you greetings from our 25th International Grand Basilisk, Rashida S. Liberty. And my advice would be to be bold and your authentic self, and to remember service is about others. For when greater service, greater progress arises, we bring a greater world and greater women. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And you all about to be celebrate your centennial, right?
Celebrating 100 years of greater service, greater progress this year.
Don't leave that part out. Don't leave that part out. We for 100 years, we appreciate that kind of work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Tamika Walker Kelly.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. My name is Tamika Walker Kelly. I am an elementary music specialist from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and proud to be president of the North Carolina Association of Educators, which is the state's largest professional organization for all public school employees, and also proud to be a sister of Swing 5 Swing Social Fellowship Incorporated. And I was recently speaking to a group of high school seniors just last week at my alma mater, and wanted to share this piece of advice I think is really important for Black women and for people who follow us in this position. And my advice is that we need to lean into the lessons of failure, because while we celebrate success and high achievement in reaching our goals, the learning is actually in the act of failing. And so it is not a thing to be fearful of. It is something to embrace and to re-envision the mindset of what it means to fail. So failing upward.
That's something we need to take with us, right?
Did I tell you that was my sister?
Look at y'all. Look at y'all. Look at y'all. I'm looking at LA and I know what we got it like that. LA is like, one of her favorite phrases is, I'm loving this, y'all. I'm just loving this, y'all. I know it. I know her face. Ms. Letha, come on, talk to us.
Hey, y'all, good morning. And yeah, I can't even start my comments without like acknowledging this beautiful space that I find myself called into this morning in LA. I'm gonna borrow your phrase, right? Because I am loving this. Like, I'm sitting here feeling like overwhelmed and a little full to be surrounded by such great Black women, right? As a Black woman who is striving to be my best self, in the world. So I just appreciation. Thank you for inviting me to the space. Advice I would give is to be bold and unapologetically Black in a world that teaches us that something's wrong with Blackness. I would encourage Black women that are coming up behind me to throw that out the window, to smash it, to know that we are brilliant and beautiful and have worth, and to surround yourself with women who are older than you, who are the same age as you, who are younger than you, because there's so much to learn when you have a broad circle of Black women surrounding you.
I am not the one to keep a straight face. I just saw what Kathleen put in the chat. She said, this is shea butter to the soul. I'm trying to write it down because I don't know how to save stuff that's in the chat. So give me just a minute to write it down. I'm old school. We all know that. I see Stacy Carlos. I'm going to tell you because Stacy will never do it. She's too shy. This young lady right here, big smile and all, testified before Congress. So I just can't imagine going up in the halls of that kind of stuff and keeping my cool and just doing it like I watch Stacy do it on TV. So Stacy, you want to tell everybody who you are in case they don't know?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone. I'm Stacy Carlos, and I'm Executive Director of NC Counts Coalition. And my advice would be to find a mentor and to be a mentor, because I think that mentorship, it's really important. It always supports growth and inspiration, and you're never too old to have a mentor. And I always tell my sisters, you know, we have a lot going. The whole world is always against us and coming for us. So I say, let's fix each other's crown. And let's make room and create room so that all of our queens can take their throne.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, thank you. Deborah Maxwell, the historic Deborah Maxwell. Somebody may not know you.
Good morning. It's still morning, everyone. I am just honored to be in this space and in this place with so much positivity. My name is Deborah Dix Maxwell. I bring you greetings from the only coup d'etat that occurred on American soil, known as Wilmington, North Carolina, where I reside as the first female president of the North Carolina NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. There might be various organizations on this Zoom, but everyone can join the NAACP and support me as president. Now, my advice for young people is to be very intentional about where they are, what their spaces they occupy, because all of you here know that once you came and climbed up that ladder, someone wanted you to be there and was not always for the good of what your beliefs, your rights, and whatever organization you were representing. To communicate and collaborate with your sisters, those who support you. And as Stacy said, always be a mentor. Mentor up, mentor down. Because of course I have my mentors above me who are my state administrators from the great state of New York and the great state of Tennessee. Without, I could not make it right now. So always, but then I'm gonna close with this quote, and I know some of you know it. Know who you are, and that's what this quote says. If I didn't define myself for myself, I would be crushed into other people's fantasies for me and eaten alive by Audre Lorde. So know yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Bringing, Deborah, how old is the NAACP?
113 years old.
Wow.
National.
Wow. I guess what's mind-boggling to me is the organizational power that's in this room as well, the organizational Black power. Organizations that you're not giving leadership to in this state, the Dr. Dillard as representative of our HBCUs, who would have ever thought, senators, you know, our, like you said, our social organizations that have been holding it down. My goodness, I mean, Black political power and us Black women, you Black women, handling your business on behalf of all of us. We so whoosh. We also have Lindy. Are you able, Miss Lindy Brown, are you able to come off in a safe place?
I am. I'm still driving, but I would say good morning, my sisters. I am extremely proud to come on and to hear other sisters who are trying to empower our younger generation to carry on the torch. My name is Lindsay Brown, life member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. It's also Zeta Phi Beta Sorority National Social Action Chair about 2 years ago. My word would be to the younger generation, please, my sisters, be consistent and persistent in your endeavor. I also encourage each and every one of you to support our Black sisters who are candidates. And I would like to take this opportunity to send a shout out to my former, Commissioner, Valerie Fouché. She and I were county commissioners doing this when she came on board and I was leading out. But you should always, sisters, support one another, especially in the political climate. And you can support them by participating financially, emotionally, and talking to them. I've heard several people encourage the new generation to seek out the older generation for mentorship. I support that wholeheartedly, but I also support the seasoned members to the younger generation and take them under your wings and support them. So I am just extremely pleased to be a participant in this endeavor, and I will always try to support you in anything that I can do here in Wake County. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Lindy, thank you so much for that. And I promise you, I did not pay her. I just celebrated my daughter's birthday. I'm broke. She's my baby. And I got 2 and she was the baby. So we had to do it big. And Lindy, that is the spirit. What you just said is the spirit of this gathering. As we all have wings of different sizes, and you know, some of us have old feathers and some of us have new feathers and emerging feathers. So what you just said is just so why we're here, and it's just looks like we were meant to be together on this day this morning, because you said everything that I didn't say. So thank you for that. But that was it. That was the whole thing to the gathering. So thank you. Many thanks. We have a number of people. Dr. Savage, don't let me leave you out.
Good morning, everyone. It's exciting to be here. I am Dr. Eve. I am the Executive Director for the National Coalition of Black Women Rising, where we are committed to redefining well-being as the highest form of equity by addressing economic stability, quality education and healthcare, social support, and equitable distribution of resources, and our built neighborhoods and environment. If there were one thing or a sentence or phrase, it would be never to pour from an empty cup, remembering God, family, and community in that order, and that we are more than enough, and that we are more than advocates. We are the solution, and we are our greatest asset. Thank you so much for allowing me to be in this space.
You are in the space because you are you. So thank you for all you've been doing. Thank you in what you do in North Carolina. Whew. Let me just take a deep breath. This is powerful. This was a lot to know, a lot to get to meet all of you, just for me, myself even. We have in the room a very special person, Miss Eaton, Arminta Eaton. Would you introduce the guest that you brought earlier? I accused her of inviting 400 people. Several people told me, well, she can do that because she knows 1,000. So 400 is just a light word. Would you introduce your guest to us that you brought along to support you for the presentation?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Powell. Again, my name is Armenta Eaton, and I'm the daughter of Rosanelle Eaton, the lady that's being honored and recognized here today. It's just a pleasure to be with such great sisters in the movement and in the struggle. Some that I've been knowing for years and some that I'm just meeting on the call today. I just want to introduce some of the people that are with me today. Jessie Goslin, who is a great friend of my mother, and the Dolly Burwell, who is goddaughter to my mother. Barbara Hocutt, who is a friend of the family, Jean Crudup, and probably many others that I cannot see on the chat. However, I'm just glad that they were willing to be here today, and my mother loved them and they loved my mother. And if I may, I would like to just give a shout out regarding people that's coming behind me as well. To just say to you, I represent the Concerned Women for Justice. That was organized in 1975. The organization grew out of the Joanne Little case. I don't know if any of you all are old enough to remember the Joanne Little case. And I know some of you do remember that case where a young Black lady was jailed and in Beaufort County. And as a result, her jailer tried to sexually assault her. As a result, she won out and killed the jailer and escaped. And so women from across the state rallied around her case and issues and raised money, raised awareness about her case, and so forth, so on. And as you know, she was acquitted for that. But what remarks I would leave for the people coming behind me, when you're working for the good of the people and the people don't seem to cooperate, things don't go as you project them to be, as well as you want them to be. I would suggest to the younger people coming behind me to stop, pray for patience, guidance, understanding, and endurance. Then pick yourself up, get a second wind, and remember who and what you're fighting for. You're fighting for the future generations. You're fighting for your children, your grandchildren, and for the world as a whole, because the world needs you and the world needs your work. And stick together as women, support each other in all of your endeavors. Thank you very much for this time and this space on this program today.
Thank you, Ms. Armenta. Thank you, thank you. I would come off mute. My phone would start to remind me of something. Sorry about that. Ladies, we are in good time. And I think that's a great thing because it allows us for a time period that we wanted to just share, wanted you all to share with one another. I called it coming out our unmuted selves, leader conversations. I know I mentioned them and just kind of touched on that there were a number of things that we have experiences where we are in time. When I talked about our joy and our pain, some of us were around when Roe versus Wade was initially Roe versus Wade 1.0, and now we're here at Roe versus Wade 2.0. Some of us are when I talked about the ascendancy to the vice presidency and the struggles in his history making of the Associate Chief Justice, Associate Justice. Maybe one day she will be chief. And our assaults on our children. I know that just a few of the organizations that I'm familiar with, I know that we have various agendas that affect all of us. And I know that we are giving leadership to those things. I know Stacy, for example, gave leadership in 2020 to count the census count, and especially among our population. I know she's going to be added moving forward. I know that Deborah is handling business with the NAACP. I know Dr. Dillard, Paulette is here as a president of higher education. And I know that Kelly is here. Ms. Kelly is here with concerns about education. I know that in the sororities and the fellowships, I know we have agendas of public service work. So we all are working on something. I'd like, if you give us a minute, to let LA say a little bit about Roe versus Wade, because I know this has been something on her heart. Like I said, some of us were around in the beginning. Now we're all here together in the 2.0 version. LA won't take long, but I do want us to just come off mute and talk. So LA, could you start us off with some of your thoughts on that, and then we'll keep moving.
Absolutely, Dr. Powell. So, good morning to everyone. It is so, just to echo Leader Muhammad's statement, I am so full to be in virtual company with you all. It is not every day that we are able to be pulled and convened in such a power space as it is today. And so, Dr. Powell, thank you so much for your tireless work in creating today. I want to also shout out Elder and Leader Miss Betty Murchison for being a co-conspirator with us in this process. Program Director Jovita Lee supporting the incubation of the ideation, and Greg Hill's media team and Cameron for being on running tech for us. And so the folks that you don't see behind the scenes. And also I want to shout out Cameron and Lamar from our team who are like, Black men need to support Black women. So they're here from our team, but here in a capacity to support. And just want to honor, Chairwoman Senator Foushee, who has guided my work and being able to serve as Deputy Director of Programs of the North Carolina Black Alliance. And of course, Leader Dolly Burwell. I'm an environmental justice advocate, but that work wouldn't be possible without you paving the way. And so it's just an honor to be able to put this on record to say thank you for making my work possible in this iteration and just following the legacy and work of the elders and leaders. And of course, honoring elder and ancestor Rosenell Eaton and leader Arminta Eaton. So thank you so much for just being in space with us so that we can love you out loud. Because that's what we have to do with one another. And so as Dr. Powell was really stating, just thinking about in our discussion, so part of the North Carolina Black Alliance, we have 4 primary issue areas. That's economic justice, that's environmental justice, that's of course voting rights, and then crime and justice. But what's within our economic and environmental justice work is healthcare, access to healthcare, because our communities have consistently been attacked, specifically Black women, with our ability to afford healthcare, to have facilities that create access by which in rural communities that we can even reach. We know that over 11 rural hospitals in North Carolina have closed in a decade. And so when we talk about our primary care physicians in many of our neighborhoods are actually the emergency room. Well, now how can we access that emergency room when the hospitals are closed? And I want to honor Senator Foushee and other electeds who have fought just this week alone to pass Medicaid expansion in the Senate and to also pass Senate Bill 888, saying that with my C4 hat, y'all, because it was passed. So I just want to do appreciation to the Black women who are still fighting for us to have access to healthcare options. And so when we talk about, very briefly, there was a quote that Dr. Monroe stated that one of the darkest moments in US history was the systemic eradication of the African-American midwife from her community, resulting in a legacy of birthing injustices. And so when we talk about Roe v. Wade and we talk about the framing of access to healthcare, we have to also consider what is the Black lens when we're talking about equitable medical care for our communities. In the 1600s, when our ancestors were brought to these shores, right, with our consent, and when we're talking about the indigenous women, because I'm Afro-Indigenous, that were also on these shores, we had a cultural practice of being midwives. And so what we found in the 1600s is that Black women were midwives to newly arrived enslaved mothers. They were so successful that Black midwives were forced to provide the same service to white women because their birthing rates were, death rates were very high at that time. So we were successfully, right, bringing babies into this world at the top of when our lives were being taken in slavery. But during slavery, guess what happened? White folks saw that we were too successful and they wanted to create and eradicate our ability to provide that service to our own while copying and emulating that service for their own communities. And so we had folks like Frances Marion Sims, who created a medical plantation, experimented on the bodies of enslaved Black women without anesthesia in order to create the curriculum by which the study of gynecology is still based on today. That happened in slavery at the same time of Black midwives bringing to fruition Black babies and white babies. Let's be very clear. And then when the study of gynecology was produced, white male physicians and clinicians began to replace Black midwives in their own homes. But we were still servicing the US South. We were still servicing enslaved Black women. We were serving our own people. We continued, and even into the 1940s, Black midwives served 75% of all births in the Black community. But then also in the 1940s became a slew of policies and laws that systematically eradicated midwives and made it illegal to have granny midwives. And that's another term they use. And because of that legal impetus, that policy codified into law, it rendered our ability to create medical intervention, prenatal care, and healthcare service that had been successful for generations. It was now illegal under the United States law. But then in the 1940s, Planned Parenthood was created by Margaret Sanger, who was a movement and leader of the eugenics movement. And if everyone, and I know in honoring the elders in this space today, everyone is aware of the eugenics movement. But if you're not, it was a strategic annihilation of certain communities based on trying to create a perfect race. That was literally the term, and that's why it was created along with Francis Galton, the father of the eugenics movement. And so the outgrowth of the eugenics movement was the eradication and forced sterilization of our communities. We saw that legacy and that impact on ancestor Fannie Lou Hamer. Right, we saw that impact on our when we talk about the sales of Henrietta Lacks. That was the outgrowth in medical care, that while they were outlawing our practices of providing medical care, they were creating other alternative intervention for their own. But then also at the same time was creating eugenics, and that curriculum of eugenics was borrowed by Germany, and it was the curriculum enacted and used to create the Holocaust. Our atrocities were literally tied. The curriculum studied on our enslaved bodies and emancipated bodies was also using a global, right, annihilation of a population across the waters. So when we talk about today's the impact, we see that Black infants in America are now more than twice as likely to die as white infants, a racial disparity that is actually wider than in 1850, 15 years before the end of slavery, when Black women, we were still considered chattel. So we had more successful birthing rates before the end of slavery than we do now. And so why is that? Studies show that in the United States, Black women are 2 to 6 times more likely to die from complications of pregnancy than white women. Black babies are dying at twice the rate as white babies. And it is due to the quality of prenatal care and postpartum care, as well as interaction between health-seeking behaviors and satisfaction with physicians. Why is this important? Because today in modern times, Planned Parenthood actually does provide access to healthcare, in that it creates free ultrasounds and other actual physician checkups for women who access that care. But we have to ask ourselves, do we not deserve more than to go back into the burning house by which the tragedy was created to eliminate systematically our people, and is now the only source of intervention and free healthcare for our women? We deserve more. It's been an attack. But we deserve to have access to healthcare. We deserve to have more hospitals in rural community. We deserve to have primary physicians. And so as we talk about what is our lens in the Roe v. Wade discussion, we also have to understand that it is both an attack on our body, but it is the continued legacy of the tragedies by which it has hurt and harmed our ability to choose what our communities look like. And it also is an outgrowth of the impact on our democracy. When we say democracy and the attacks, we've been gerrymandered, but the actual creation of literacy tests came from the ideology of eugenics, where they attempted to codify into law that literacy tests should be required for Black communities and immigrant communities to prove whether they were a superior race. And it was the ideology that came out of the eugenics to say that not only should this community not be here, they also shouldn't have the ability to frame political power in the context of shaping this nation, even though our labor, our intelligence is what birthed this nation. This is what we have been facing. It's nothing new. And as we have Black women like Senator Fushi, Senator Natalie Murdoch, and others in the Senate, when we talk about Leader Robinson, when we talk about our elders, these are still Black women who are fighting for us not to be swallowed up by the injustices of the system that has never been eradicated. So we cannot be drawn into the dog whistle of white women who are saying our threats are being, our lives are being threatened. Honey, they already are. We don't have to live in what is the potential of harm. We have been harmed. And so we have to ignore the dog whistle in this moment, because abortion rights, thanks to the Black women on this call, have been continuously protected. So we are safe there, but where we are not safe is a lack of access to healthcare that we have to continue to fight for. We are not safe from the lack of hospitals to support us. We are not safe from our urgent cares and our also environmental injustices. And that's why I elevated, and I'll stop right here, Dr. Powell, so we can get to the discussion, why it was important for leader Dolly Burwell to birth the environmental justice movement, and the outgrowth of the Black men who carry on that mantle is because it was proven that corporations were put into the very same areas of former plantations and the Jim Crow segregation zoned areas. And those dirty corporations is what has created more health disparities. So you're telling me that we have breathed in, drank dirty water that is creating pre-existing healthcare conditions that is then passed down to our babies in the embryo stage. And then we are coming and birthing our children into an already disparate condition. And on top of that, we don't have access to healthcare, prenatal care, and postpartum care. This is the condition by which we have to continue to fight. And so that, I appreciate you all holding me in sisterhood, because it's been something that's been on my mind that we've discussed in our teams. But I know that the incubation of thought, when I think about ancestor Mary McLeod Bethune, when I think about the movement that we have continued to come from, this is where power resides, by which we have to continue to say, how do we protect ourselves? Because it's always been Black women, whether it's midwives or doulas. It has always been us saving us. And so thank you for this. And I just look forward to the discussion. And again, so much honor and love. Thank y'all all for coming into this space with us today. So Dr. Powell, I'm gonna pass it back over to you.
All of that. And in some space, I also, given that in the thread of that environmental piece that LA just burned us up with, and is that, if I recall, LA, you also told us that in those areas where people have ingested, I don't know if that's the right word, I didn't do science, I did children, that have those environmental toxins in our bodies, that our current vaccinations that we're getting now are inherently less affected because of that toxicity. So Kathleen, this afternoon, they have given me a pass to cuss, but I mean, damn. I mean, on top of everything else, just damn. You know, I know that Dawn's been firing up the chat. I know that Zeta Phi Beta has Z-Hope. I know that NCNW has maternal health platforms. I'm just gonna do my best to hold all these women. And I know you all have a lot to say. I'm just gonna do my best to facilitate the conversation for about 20 minutes. Just come on off mute and just know that at some point I'll just say we got to end it so that we can honor Ms. Rosenell. So my Black women, my sisters, have at it.
I just want to say thank you, LA, for that amazing, amazing tribute to history, to bring us clarity, and just wanted to really say how important it is for us to be grounded in that, because many of us, all of us, but more specifically, are still living with the impact of environmental justice harms maternally. You know, when we think about the forever chemical, the drug that was given to moms during the 1950s through the 1970s before it was banned. I was one of those, rejected in utero, and but not without first harming, not without first the impact of that harm that would later affect my journey as a mom in birthing children, and now my girls. So we don't know how long this will live on, even after the ban. It is something important for us to continue talking about. So DES, I hate the label, but in fact, that environmental harm, you know, put me in that category as a DES daughter. And so I will forever fight. Thank you for sharing that, but we are still living with this in ways that haven't even been considered. So again, just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you. Thank you. Dawn, I know you're going to fire up the room. Go ahead and get it out your chest, Dawn.
Dr. Powell, really quickly, I want to say that I saw Sister Giddens' hand, and then if we
okay.
wouldn't mind, Dawn, if that's okay, I just didn't want to.
That's fine. Yes.
Try to help on tech. That's where I'm at. Put me to work.
I was trying to be orderly. I'm like, okay, we got a lot of people on this call, so let's. So LA, thank you so much for that talk. I mean, you just hit home to a health equity issue that we have been championing in Swing Five Swing. As you can see in my background, our campaign is Saving Ourselves. So you really touched in on that. That is exactly what we want to do. We are working with NCNW and several of our sister affiliate organizations on this call, with Delta, Zeta, everyone who is an affiliate in NCNW, really championing for good health wins and health equity. So I am just honored for you to share the history behind it and why it's so entirely important for us to save ourselves, and to really not just look at this with one lens, but look at it in a holistic view from slavery to today and how it has impacted our community. So thank you so much. I'm honored that you shared that with us.
It really isn't intended to be calling on people. It's really intended for, if it's on your heart to say it. You know how we talk all over each other. Have at it. Go ahead, Joyce, Dawn, whoever. Joyce raised her hand.
Joyce,
Dawn,
go ahead.
Okay.
I thought I was getting in queue, as we said, in line, we used to say when we were growing up. But I just thank LA and others of you for the powerful presentation. And I'm feeling you as we're sharing on here. But I particularly appreciate you, LA, for putting forth the truth, the depth of the truth. Because if we would run our lives, as much as I love Joy Reid and all of our other folks on the airways these days, if we just relied on MSNBC and CNN and what have you, we'd be in a horrible mess. So pushing for the truth, seeking justice, insisting on justice is what our call is today. There are just so many falsehoods. And some of you have heard me and those of us at Beloved Community Center speak of this, that unless and until we push for the truth of our past and the truths of what the possibilities of our future can hold, we're not going to make any significant progress in this country. So when I look back on the blessing of 70 plus years now and having worked for over 50 years for justice since a teenager, really, as I'm thinking about, it's over 60 because I started in high school. But we look, and Deborah, you can join me with this as, life members of the NAACP. That's really where I got going. We are still kind of circling because we have not gone directly at the truth. And you're right, LA, this country was built on our backs. It was stolen from our cousins, our brothers and sisters, Native Americans, who are still suffering. I was glad to see the report that came out recently about the schools in North Carolina, along with schools around this country, that so-called adopted Native Americans, because the view was there's no good engine except a dead engine, and decided they were not even worthy of raising their children. But we've are endeavoring at the Beloved Community Center to do a statewide truth, justice, healing, and reconciliation process. Some of you have already been meeting with us. We've been to Wilmington, we've been to Asheville, we've been to Northampton County, all over rural and urban areas. Because until our people, particularly Black people, but all people know the truth, we're not going to make a lot of progress. Too many white people think that their problems come from Black and brown people. They believe that, and sometimes we join in that belief. You'll see that with some of our elected officials who speak their negativity stronger than any white person I know. So I'm just so thankful for y'all. Thank you, LA. Thank you, others, for being champions of the truth. We've always been that as Black women. And LA really laid that out just around one sector, which is so important, our whole reproductive, so our existence. And how if we don't understand what the depths of truth are, we will agree to solutions that just repeat. The young sister said she is I think it's a DES daughter. These things have legacies. I was a kid born in 1946 at home, premature, over 2 months. And the whole neighborhood took care of me, is a story I heard, because my grandmother was wise enough to say, we can't let that baby go to the hospital because white folk will kill her. So that community got together to make sure that I survived. So that's part of why I'm so indebted to the community today. So just thanks, let's keep preaching the truth, but also insisting that decisions that are made, from elected officials to policies to behaviors to curricula to everything, is based on the truths of our history and of our current situation, and not just a superficial analysis that we're given by some statistical presentation. We know the truth, and the truth really will set us free. It's bitter a lot of times, but it will set us free. Thank you. Sister Dawn, you're next.
So, oh my goodness, Ms. Joyce, that was just so powerful. And you reminded me of something that I didn't even raise my hand to talk about, but I feel like it's important to share it in this moment. Again, y'all, what we know for sure is that when America catches a cold, Black America gets pneumonia, right? It is always worse for us. It is always harder for us. And Black women bear the incredible brunt of trying to make sure that we are holding everything together for everybody, right? This milk shortage, this formula shortage, and you talking about being born premature at home and not being sent to the hospital and being here because of your community. My mother was born not premature, but could not thrive. Probably because she had some kind of intestinal issues, digestive issues with birth, with breast milk and with whatever formula was available. everyone had told my grandparents that she was going to die. There was no way she was going to survive. My great grandmother, who was living in Macomb, Mississippi, died in Macomb, Mississippi. That's where my people are from. Rode the train up to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where my family had migrated, got my mother, and took her back to Macomb with her, and literally breathed life into her. Hear me when I tell y'all that those types of stories, we know them, we hear them, but we don't always connect them with the struggles that we're still facing. We don't really use our history the way we're supposed to use it, share our stories the way we should share them, to help us know what is possible, what has always been possible, what we have always done, right? Which is take care of ourselves. Now, the reason that I raised my hand, though, was that I felt like it's important that in this moment, I think one of the things that is making such a big difference is that those of us doing this work right now have the unique understanding that without being able to connect all the dots between our individual issues, we don't progress, right? I think for so long we were taught to play this game by the rules of white supremacy. We were fighting for our own liberation in silos because that's what white folks told us was the right way to fight for things, by individual issues, right? Individual. I do criminal justice. Somebody else does education, somebody else does, housing, somebody else does environmental health. And the reality is all of those things are symptoms, right, of a bigger problem. They are all branches from the same tree that is rooted in white supremacy and oppression, right? But it was so important for them that we never made the connection, that we never saw the tree. And now I think that we are seeing the tree and talking about seeing the tree and making other people see the tree, right? And then taking all of our amazing efforts and putting them together to work on the one real issue, which is uprooting that tree of systemic and institutional racism and oppression. Because that's really what all of us are trying to do. No matter how we're coming at it, we're all trying to do that. We all trying to saw off our own branch. But if we can't keep our eye on the tree, another branch will just grow back. But I think we're there now, right? I think we're at a place where we can see the whole tree. And what we've got to do is make sure each of us collectively and individually make sure that as we speak about our own issues, like LA did just so amazingly. I'm so blessed to know this. Don't get me started on LA anyways. But the way that LA does that is so affirming. Because we're talking about health, we are talking about environment, we are talking about the placement of housing, we are talking about wealth and equity, we are talking about education, all under the umbrella of healthcare, right? But the most important thing I think is that we see, y'all, that the way that they have been able to blunt our power is by keeping us in silos, by making sure that we only talked about the branch that we were trying to cut off the tree and not uprooting the damn tree.
Hot diggity. I got a fellow person that cusses, and Kathleen said when it's appropriate, go on and use it. Bree. Bree.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't feel like I really have much to add because I feel like I feel like what everybody has kind of said what I was saying in response to LA, but I think also like what Dr. Johnson said is so important about the framing, right? Because I feel like there's this thing that is happening where we have like the people who are obviously our opposition, like they just want to destroy us. It's very obvious, but then we also have this issue of people who are kind of on our side, right? But not really. And that's where we get, I think, a lot of the diversity and inclusion as a non-solution to the issues, right? So instead of changing the structure of the hospital, right? They might give us a Black chief of staff, and that's supposed to be like, you know, the solution that's become kind of like the non-solution solution. And that's why I think it is so important, because it's so obvious. It's the thing that is obviously there, but we're not allowed to name, which is how the entire system is built around the enslavement of Black and Indigenous women, period. And I think that's what LA laid out so well. And you know, Dawn following and talking about how, you know, trying to position these issues as though they are separate from each other is part of how the opposition kind of keeps us from having the level of organization that we should have. And I'll say this last thing, just very briefly, the situation with the shootings is a perfect example, right? Like it's been really blowing my mind how, you know, just a few weeks ago, whenever the shooting was that happened in Buffalo, there was this clear awareness, right, that this incident sits at the intersection of several different issues, right, which and therefore really represents the system that we are coming up against. You have a young white man comes from an all-white community where he has been raised to have racist ideas. He didn't come out of nowhere. You know, you don't get to be 18 to 21 years old with racist ideas that you just came up with yourself. Adults have to raise you. You have to be raised in a community with those ideas. He accesses guns that he should not have access to, drives to one of the most segregated places in America, right, targets the single grocery store that the community had to fight for. A lot of Black women activists and elders in the community were the ones who fought for it and end up being the ones that get targeted and shot down, right? Like we had this moment where it was, the whole system was put on display, and we could look at all of it and we could say how the racist stuff that he was saying is directly connected to the attack on voting rights. And, you know, but instead of leaning into that, that was when our so-called allies and friends try to like steer us in that, oh, well, it's, you know, it's just about gun violence. It's, you know, it's just about guns. It's the conversation always happens in a way that steers us away from looking at how our experiences, particularly as Black women, touch on all of these things. And if we were to actually try to change things structurally by addressing the outcomes of Black women, who we know are like some of the most politically engaged people in the country, right? So what does that say? That we are the most politically engaged, that people are constantly trying to draw from us or getting our support on board or trying to put us in the front of things to validate things. But yet when it comes to the solutions that we are putting forward that we know that we need for ourselves and for our communities, the conversation always gets shut down, right? So I think that framing and that understanding, and the more that we can have those conversations with people so we understand, no, this is not a one-off issue. What happened in Uvalde is not separate from what happened in Buffalo. This is not a separate issue. I've been focused on housing lately. And even though, yes, housing affects like so many different cross sections of the population, if you go and sit in the courthouse on any given day, most of the people who are being turned out of their homes are Black women and their children. Right? So there is no way that we can talk about any of these issues without talking about how it relates to Black women specifically, because that's how we got the system, because the whole system was built around enslaving Black women and their children. And so I think that like, as we build, as we are advocating, it's not that diversity is bad. It's not like, yes, we need to run people for office and we need people in leadership, but we've got to be in those positions with that understanding. You know what I'm saying? This is the last, I swear this is the last thing I'll say. Perfect example, I think, is when we had the Supreme Court Justice nomination. And before we even knew who they named, the first thing they went to is there going to be a qualified Black woman? Now we know there are qualified Black women, right? But then what they wanted to do was try to pick and choose, okay, well, if we have to have a Black woman, let's try to find one that's going to cater to the status quo. And that's what they'll always try to do. And so you even see now where in some cases, the Trump and the white supremacists are trying to find Black candidates to run against our candidates, Right. And that's not because they believe in diversity. It's because they think if they just put a face on you, they could just put a brown face on the front of the same system. So yes, I'm so thankful to know y'all. I think North Carolina is so powerful. I think the women that we have here is powerful. Thank you, LA, for laying that out. Thank you, Dawn, for dropping the information in the chat. Like, that's just a microcosm of how we work together and change things. But
if I can, Jovita and Deborah, we're getting close to our time to move over into the next section. So Jovita, is it okay if I let Deborah go first and then you come along, because that'll be our segue into the presentation that you and LA are gonna make for Miss Rosanelle. Is that okay?
Of course it is.
Oh, she makes me feel like I'm always telling her what to do. Thank you, Jovita. Deborah.
Thank you, LA, and thank you everyone for the input that was provided. It's smoke and gun with so many pieces when it hits the mirror. And unfortunately, or fortunately, the organization I'm with attacks each sphere of what we're talking about and what happens. And that's what makes people upset at us, because we're moving at education, we're moving at health, we're moving at environmental justice. It's not an easy task, and people don't want to see progress happen within the state of North Carolina. Trust me, housing is multiplied by the fact that we couldn't find jobs and we went up north, and now that we up north, we don't want to come back down south. So we let our house go in our old neighborhood, and then that exacerbates the gentrification of Black neighborhoods. You know, I'm sitting in a house between two houses, and she lives in Cherry City or somewhere in New Jersey. So when she dies, that's two more houses sold for the other people, because her daughters are not coming here. But we have to unify, work together on these issues. And I would like, prior to us departing here, that Dr. Powell or Black Alliance, let us know what the other one is doing so that we can be supportive of what you are doing. Because together, we're all working on the same issues, but we can work together and make it better for each of us, because we're all wanting the best for the state, the best for our country. And we also have Black women who need to be elected in November that we can also work on. That was a nonpartisan statement, if anybody heard that, okay? I did not say political affiliation. So that is what I would like for us to try and see to do. And I am guilty of having that happen to myself. I flew from Korea at almost 8 months pregnant in my 20s, because they were cutting up every friend of mine to make that extra money that you get for a C-section. Now, remember I said I was in my 20s in the military, okay? I was at an internship at Vidant now. The doctor walked in and told a teenage Black girl, "You have preeclampsia," and walked out the room. Didn't explain it, nothing. Went back and sat down with her and told her what she had to do, what could do. This is how we are damaged when our people believe the healthcare providers are the be all, the end all, the send all, and we have to teach them, no, they're not. Question everything they say and do. That's why Black women die more heart attacks, because they're misdiagnosed. I'm sorry. I'm through, Dr. Powell. It's my soapbox, because we got so many battles to fight on everything.
And that's what this is for, soapboxes and all of that. And for us, if this is what we want to do, get together some more, whatever, it is the will of y'all who lead, and we'll facilitate whatever you want to do. Jovita, Kathleen, and then we got to go to Jovita in LA.
Okay, thank you. I just want to go really quickly. When we're talking about how everything connects together, a lot of my work is around food justice. Everything follows the food. The quality of the water, the quality of the education, the quality of the air can be determined by the quality of the grocery store, if there's one in that area. That was just something I just want to say, but also what we're talking about is a lot of really, really heavy stuff. And I just want to take a second and ask you all to breathe with me for just a moment. So this is the healer and the chaplain in me. because the atmosphere shifted. And I don't know if anyone else felt that other than myself, but it's a righteous anger and it's justified. And it does not need to be quenched or put anywhere. But also within that space and the anger, we need to remain grounded and centered. So I'm just real quick, if y'all want to breathe with me, that's cool. But I just ask if you could just take about 4 really deep breaths with me and to release those things that's not serving you in this moment, because a lot of what's happening in this atmosphere we need, but you can feel the battle happening, right? So let's just breathe for a moment and release those things that's not serving us. So as we move into this next section, we move into it ready to keep moving forward. So, and I'm just gonna chat real gently and slowly while you all deeply breathe. I want you to come in through your nose. Feel the air going in and going down. Feel your belly expand. Feel your feet on the floor and just bring it in and release that out through your mouth real slow, real controlled, and focus on the feel of the air within your body. Feel your feet, feel the slippers of the floor, feel that the weight of the atmosphere against your skin. Feel the clothing against your body. If you can just breathe in with me one more time, in through our nose. Feel that going down, our bellies expand. If you're like me, your belly is soft, so maybe just rub it a little bit. And just let it out one more time. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you all for joining in with me. I just wanted us to reground ourselves. If you can still feel that when you get off the call, maybe just even put your feet in some dirt, put your hands on a tree, and just reconnect and just allow ourselves to kind of get back to that space. Because the work that we do as Black women is powerful work. It's dedicated work, and it takes so much out of us. And someone said earlier that we have to remember those things that have gotten us where we are. And part of that is a part of healing, of breathing, of just taking a moment, because we can't keep moving forward if we're tired. So thank you all.
Thank you so much for that. One of my pastors taught me that Carlton A.G. Eversley, that God is the God of an intentional universe, and the intentionality of you being in our midst to aid our spirits is deeply appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Jovita and LA, would you lead us into the portion of the presentation, if you would, please?
Sure. So Dr. Powell, I believe Jovita had a comment before we go into that presentation. So Jovita, if you wouldn't mind making that comment, and then we'll take it back and go into the presentation.
I'll actually refrain because she's already shifted the dynamic of the energy in this space. So I will move to the presentation, but thank you. Yeah, so.
And Professor Lee, look, you professor and a half. Look at me, I'm sorry, I'm about to call out titles.
Doing too much. Entirely too much going on right now.
So in this portion of our program, I just definitely want to say thank you. Just first of all, I saw all the comments in the chat, and I don't want that to go unnoticed. I always like to say verbal affirmations and love instead of going individual. So thank you all, and thank you for keeping the spirit of fight, because that's what has inspired me to be able to present. Because the reality is, as y'all pray for me, as you love for me, that's what pours out of me. It's not just the investment of my elders, but it's the investment of the present folks who are pouring into me every single day, and that's you all. And so I do look forward to how we can continue to support the North Carolina Black Alliance, what that means, and work with Dr. Powell and the rest of our team to see what it means to keep continuing engagement with you all. So that's just deep appreciation and love to each of you. And thank you again for sharing with us your individual stories. You didn't have to do that. And I didn't want to skip over that part as I pass it to Director Lee, is that in this moment, you shared with us your testimony, but that is not separate for the humanity of who you are. And oftentimes as Black women, we are tasked with the burden of extracting the pain in order for it to be a solution for somebody else. And so I just want to say, I love y'all, and you honored us in space and trusted us with a piece of your story and a piece of your pain and a piece of your memory. And I did not want to skirt over that is what happened, and to ground that humanity and in love for each and one of you. It wasn't just a luncheon today, y'all. This was literally a sister share and a testimony. And so thank you for that. And Director Lee, I will pass it over to you to continue honoring and in love and holding a wonderful ancestor and her family is present. So I'll pass it over to you and thank you for this wonderful special presentation that you're about to provide.
Thank you so much. It is my honor to be in space with everyone today. As LA has lifted, I am Jovita Lee. She has added all of the unnecessary titles to my name, but I am Jovita Lee, and I am happy to be in space with you all today. And it is also my great pleasure and honor to be able to honor an elder and to also have their daughter in space with us today. It is a great honor to me to be allowed to this opportunity to do this, and to also just be able to hold Miss Arminta in space today. It's really, really important to me. So thank you for the opportunity to do so. And so I will give brief remark, and then we will continue to honor Elder Eaton from there. And so Elder Rosanelle Eaton, mother, activist, matriarch, and North Carolina native, born on farmlands near Lewisburg, North Carolina in 1921. Elder Eaton was someone who truly walked the walk with her work, especially having lived through American Jim Crow. One of her first publicly credited direct actions was when she was 21 years old and eager to register to vote. She entered her local courthouse in Franklin County, and she stated that she was present to register to vote. After being confronted by 3 white men, it was requested that she recite the preamble of the Constitution in order to register, a typical tactic used to deter Black people from registering to vote. But her being the valedictorian that she was, she recited it from memory without fail. She was then granted her registration and was able to cast her ballot in 1942. Although we celebrate this moment, Elder Eaton knew that this could not continue to be the norm for our people. She immediately became active in her community in the name of democracy by becoming a county poll worker and special registrar commissioner, registering over 4,000 people at that time. Her activism continued to develop as she became a member of the NAACP and participated in many numerous demonstrations, including the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963. Her activism did not come without a price, as her and her family faced many nights of terror. Burning crosses and damaged property became a part of their routine. But Elder Eaton did not let this keep her away from the fight. She continued to be a matriarch of the movement well into her 90s, working with Reverend Dr. William Barber in the Moral Movement. She was the center of the multi-year fight against voter suppression, referencing HB 589. As a result of her tenacity and leadership in this historic case, the statue was struck down and voting rights for Black folks were protected. Elder Eaton was a hero, a shero in this movement, and we are all indebted to her work. As a younger leader myself in this work, I honor her drive. I honor her fearlessness, and I honor her dedication to the community and her people. We are because she was. So following this next presentation to honor the work and legacy of Elder Rosanelle Eaton by short video presentation, we will hear from the legend in her own right, Elder Eaton's daughter, Miss Arminta Eaton. And so I will pass to our team to provide that video honorarium, and then we will pass to the legendary Miss Arminta Eaton.
The lead plaintiff in the lawsuit is a 93-year-old woman named Rosanelle Eaton. The name on her birth certificate doesn't match the name on her driver's license, and it would cost both time and money to fix that under the new law. Eaton faced a literacy test when she first voted 70 years ago. She had crosses burned on her lawn and gunshots fired into her home for helping register African Americans to vote. Today, she's still fighting for her right to vote. Joining me now is Rosanelle Eaton. Thank you for being here, Ms. Eaton.
Thank you for having me.
Now, decades after Jim Crow, could you have ever imagined fighting for the right to vote again after all these years?
No, I can't imagine that I've got to go through the same thing that I went through 80 years ago, at least 75. I can't imagine going through that again. But I am going through it, and it's actually worse than it was then.
Why do you say it's worse?
I think it's worse because I know what to expect. Then I didn't know, so it wasn't surprising. But it's a very difficult task. It's a difficult situation now. And we got accustomed to different varieties and different ways of life. And now it is so horrible to think about going back where we came from when we were marching in Alabama and all over the state.
You know what struck me to my core about your story? You had to be subjected to literacy tests, had deal with cross burning on your front lawn and fire shots through your house, and now you're the lead plaintiff because you were denied the right to vote, and you're a lead plaintiff at 93 years old. You never were afraid, even with the cross burnings and the shotgun blast through your house? I mean, you went through this stuff personally.
No, I wasn't afraid. I always had nerve, and I had ambition, and I had intuition, and I believed we could make it. The Lord would help me through it. I was real young then, and now I'm old. I realized that people maybe didn't understand what we were doing, but now I know they understand. It's just something they want to do anyway to set us back.
The governor of North Carolina and others that have come with these laws that you and others are fighting in the state and around the country, if they're listening tonight, as someone who's given a life to this country and civil rights, what would you like to say to them?
To him?
Yes.
I would like to say that he should reconsider and think about things and think about the Declaration of Independence that states that all men are created equal and that we have the right to be participating and not finding fault about everything and trying to make this a fraud state, because it's not. And I would just like to tell him to realize the fact that we are people and that we are human and that the Lord enables us to be alive. And my grandfather worked for this company and worked for this country and was sold as a slave. And my father was a young guy, but he wasn't old enough to go to be a slave, but he cleared this land, and we should have a right to be free.
You said you've worked at the polls for over 60 years. Have you seen voter fraud, Ms. Eaton?
No, it wasn't any fraud going on. I mean, at all. We were very sincere in what we did. I worked the polls 40 years as an assistant, and I worked it over 25 years as a judge. We sincerely checked the ballots, and everything was going good. It was not fraud. They didn't find any fraud, just a little mixed up on 2 votes all over the state. But they used that as a manner to defraud the voting rights and make it harder so we can't vote and be successful as we were. Because I've been in this election ever since I was very, very young and as a child. And I started, it was my intention to carry it through. And that's why I'm out here today fighting for our rights, because it's not right the way they have treated us and trying to just make a dish out of us.
Rosanelle Eden, I want to thank you so much for your time tonight, and really God's blessings and good luck with your fight against this law.
Thank you so very much, Reverend Sharpenter, and may God ever bless you, and let us keep the Lord in front of us, and he will guide us and direct us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so very much, and look to see you soon.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We will now invite Ms. Arminta Eaton to come off mute and give us some remarks for today. Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much for this opportunity to be with you all today. On behalf of the Eaton family, I'd like to thank the planners of this great event, this great dialogue. I want to thank LA, and I want to thank Dr. Lee for your presentations. And I want to thank the Alliance as a whole and the great women who are here today, and the officers and all the leaders of this organization. I thank you for that presentation, because it brought back so many memories of my mother. She loved people, and she loved working on behalf of people, not just for herself, because she knew she wouldn't be here forever, but she wanted to make sure that she left this world in a better place than she found it. She would always say to her children to put God first and move on, and he would protect you, guide, and direct you. And that was her philosophy. And in the presentation interview, Reverend Sharpton, he asked if she was afraid. I don't ever remember my mother being afraid of anything, any person or anything, because she'd always put God first. And I used to say, Mother, I don't know how in the world you lasted this long. And she said, I'm here because God wanted me here to do something. She always would say too, that she didn't want to live just for living's sake. She wanted her life to count for something. And a neighbor of ours came up to the house after mother's funeral a couple of weeks after, and he said, you know, Rosanelle used to say she wanted her life to count for something. And I think that her life did count for something. She was my shero. She never gave up on anything. She had very many atrocities in her own personal life, in her family. She had 4 children and a husband. Her husband died when she was 36 years old. She had the rest of us to raise. And before her death, all of her children had passed away, except for me, as you can see. But she would grieve for a short while, but very short while. And she kept it in, and she continued to work for people and continued to work in civil rights, social justice, environmental justice. When we were down in Warren County, getting arrested during the environmental justice movement, she was standing in the middle of the road giving directions on what we should do and how we should go, and goodbyes. We were going to jail and everything. And she actually was working at the time as a teacher assistant. What she did was she told her principal, she said, look, I've got to do something. I've got to go to the movement in Warren County. He said, okay, Missy, I tell you what you do, because the school that she was working in was in Youngsville. Warren County was 40 miles from where she was working. He said, well, I'll tell you what, so nobody will see you, go the back way out of town. And then you hit Lewisburg and go down to another county, to Warren County. She would go there on her lunch hour, even though she took a longer lunch hour, protested, and then go back to school, and as though she'd never been anywhere. But she was just a very daring person. And when she was arrested at the age of 92, around the voting rights movement. She says, I cannot let this happen again before I get in the grave. And I want to do my part. And she never flinched. And like I said, she was never afraid of anybody or anything. When she got in jail, went to jail, she halfway converted some of the guards. And anyway, when it was time for her to leave, they didn't even want her to leave. And so she said, but I've got to leave. I've got other things to do and other people to see. So I just want to thank you all for thinking of her, for honoring her. And I want to especially thank Dr. Powell and Mother's friend, Betty Murchison, for recognizing her and for bringing her name up. My mother loved Betty and Betty loved my mother. And so I want to thank you again. As you can see behind me, the flowers that came, my mother loved roses, and some pink flowers, roses came from you all yesterday. And this beautiful plaque, I want to show you that was given, and I want to read it for you. And it says, North Carolina Black Alliance, in memory of Rosanelle Eaton, we follow in your incomparable giant footsteps. Black Women's Leadership Luncheon, June the 4th, 2022, North Carolina Black Alliance. If my mother were here today, she would be so appreciative of what you're doing. And she would have some words for the people coming behind her. Put God first, don't give up, keep pushing and keep moving just like she did. Thank you, thank you, thank you very, very much on behalf of Rosanelle's family. And God bless you and bless every effort that we do, and we'll all continue to work together as a whole. Thank you very much.
Miss Armenta, thank you. And I refuse to let you make me cry, but I'm almost there. I'm almost there.
Don't cry.
I might, because it's a very humbling place to be. To know that at whatever age we are,
yes,
that we still have a little bit more work to do.
A little bit more work to do.
A little bit more work to do. So thank you.
You're quite welcome. My mother sat on a counter stool and made the last video for a presentation to young people. And that was the last presentation she made, but she got dressed, got in the living room. I sat her on a stool, and at 96 and a half, sick, and she still made that presentation. She never wanted to give up. That was not in her DNA. So I thank you.
And I hear that, and I receive that, and I hope I can wear me some pearls and perk up, and my daughter sit me up so that I can do the same thing. Thank you. Yes, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. And I am such a crybaby, but I do appreciate that.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
What can I say? Just tears of joy, tears of, oh my gosh, it's almost over. Deputy Director Lamisha Whittington, and protocol is Marcus on the call, our executive director. Is he lurking somewhere behind the scenes somewhere? Then I need to recognize him as our executive director.
He absolutely has been here. I'll have to see if Director Bass, are you still? I want to see. I don't think he's still on. Let me see. Okay, no, he was on earlier. So Deputy Director Bass was on earlier, Dr. Powell. And
so if he left, that means it's a good sign, right? But I got you, Bree. Bree got
Bree said baby duty. See, that's
got him. There you go. There you go. Bree said, this is my luncheon today. You may be the executive director, but this is my luncheon. Thank you for that, Bree. Thank you. We did want you to know, Cameron, we love you. And today was all about love, Black women power, spirits rising, spirits getting settled, so that we could do it, move forth and do more things. I had to teach folks my age. I did a thing. They said, "What the heck does that mean?" I said, "Well, that's what the young people say when they do something important." So we did a thing to show you how much we love you. Cameron, can you share that?
Yes, I can right now. It's my camera roll, but
you can't ever leave somewhere where we had fun. What do we say in church? Without a token of our appreciation. Some of the we mentioned them on the front end, folks that made sure that things happened that you couldn't see today to make today successful. We asked you for your addresses. You might have wanted to know, well, what the world? Well, this is what the world, because we knew we wanted to send you a special gift box to say we see you, we love you, we appreciate you, and just so you know that something tangible, just not another something to do. But we promised you wouldn't have to do any work. We just wanted to scoop you up and show you some love. So this will be coming in the mail. Please let us know if it doesn't, and we'll try to find out what happened. So it's our little gift to you to say thank you for your time, your love, and hopefully it's I know I'm not supposed to say that, an investment, so maybe we'll see you again. But you got to treat people right? You got to treat them right if you think you want them to come back again. You got to have a great party, so maybe they'll come back to the next one. We have with us today, I thought we would have music to send us on home, but we are graced to be in the presence of a poet, Miss Jackie Dove Miller. And Miss Jackie Dove, if everything is where it needs to be, Miss Jackie Dove, would you send us home with your gift and your anointing, because gifts come from, the great spirit above. And I want to let you all know that when she's finished presenting, that I'm willing to sit here for whatever, if you want to stay and talk, and until I know people have other things to do. I know you may be caught up and want to tarry one for another. So I'm flexible enough. It's a Zoom, it's not like we got to get out of the room and clean up, right, Lori? We can just hit the little red button and leave. So Miss Jackie Dove, would you share with us, please?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to thank Betty Murchison for inviting me and for getting me on the program. I was just so moved by the story of Miss Rosanelle. And so the first poem, if I have time for two, then I'll do two. But the first poem is entitled, "I Shall Not Be Moved," because it really does, it is indicative of her spirit. And it is about Rosa Parks. Rosa sang silently, just like a tree that's planted by the waters. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. And she sat, knowing the least that would happen was jail. It could have been more. Others were beaten, clubbed, hosed, bitten by dogs when they marched, knelt, sat, rode buses in protest of injustice. Rosa sat quietly, determined not to ever stand again with her head bowed in fear of what might happen, just because her skin was darker than the beauty others claimed. Rosa sat stone-like, screaming loudly in her silence, "I shall not be moved." And with her stillness, Rosa moved a nation. Thank you, Rosa and Rosanelle. And the second poem is for all of us. and it's entitled, I Was Born for Greatness. I was born for greatness. At home, at play, on the job, I didn't pray for greatness. I was a thought in the mind of God. So when troubles came, singing rains refrain. I kept the faith that God's master plan was for my good, and each rainfall would be understood by and by. I felt my greatness, and when people thought they knew what I was supposed to do, I questioned, I doubted, I searched, and I cried. I wondered about the passion inside, if it really was God's gift meant for me to uplift. Then I felt inside, I felt that all that was inside was naught, and I sat on my talents as though they had not been bought by Christ's blood. But God called me to greatness, and I believed. He breathed my name, he planned my game, and cleared the lane for my success. So instead of wallowing in life's pain, I stood and claimed my resurrection. Tearing myself from the trap of fear, tearing myself from the trap of fear, from the grip of doubt, and finally stepping out on the faith that if I was born to be great, I'd better get started and stop these half-hearted attempts at fitting in, at mediocrity. To claim my greatness, I let go the facade that choice was involved. No, I know my greatness was a thought in the mind of God. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That is the benediction. Could you say that last line again? Could you just say that again?
I know my greatness was a thought in the mind of God.
That part right there. Thank you. Thank you. And that is the most gracious benediction I could ever hear. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm looking at your comments. It's 103. We did good. We did good. I see, LA, you said you want us to stay and take a picture. That's what I was just getting ready to say. Before we head on out the door, take off whatever's, go on to the grandchildren, whatever we have to do. Couple of things. Several of you have asked about a list. We have them. Currently, the list has your home address on it. So someone else who does this more than I do will figure out how to do this so that if you don't want your home addresses showing, we can figure out how to share. The other thing is I was so taken with that Hey Queen, you remember that Hey Queen video that came out a few years ago? I swear I want us to do one. I honestly do. I really do. And if we can figure out something to do with the sentence that we had, I think it would be worth it. I think all of our organizations would appreciate that. These folks have got me on social media, so I want us to be on social media too. Maybe it'll happen. And LA has said we need a picture. So wouldn't that be what the young folks would do? Isn't that not what we do? We need a picture. LA, I have no clue how that works, what to do. So if you'll take over from here, I'm done. I'm just going to stay on. If people want to talk more, I know how to talk, but I don't know anything about technology. So this is you.
Sure, Dr. Powell. Thank you again, poet and leader, Jackie Dove Miller. Thank you. Oh my goodness. I'm so full. Wish we had more time to unpack. So I'm going to ask Cameron, and I will do the same. And Jovita, if you wouldn't mind, we're all going to take screenshots, and one of our computers will come out with a great, lovely photo. So that's why I'm asking for backup. And so if we can do 2 photos, Cameron, one on page 1 and then one on page 2, because today is full. I'm so excited about a full house. So Cameron, I'll do a countdown of 3, 2, 1, and then if you'll snap, I'll do page 2 and do the same thing. All right, so here we go. All right, and oh, let me get the hair together. Sorry, y'all. All right. Look, all right, so here we go. In 3, 2, 1. All right, page 2. Let's keep the same look. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, Cameron, was that good? Was that great? Excellent. See a thumbs up. Thank you all so much, Dr. Powell. I'm great. That should be great with the capture. Thank y'all again for allowing us this time on Saturday. I know everyone is busy, but thank you for allowing us the honor just to convene and to celebrate and to love one another. So again, thank you, Dr. Powell, Ms. Betty Murchison.
We shall not be moved.
We got music.
We shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved.
Joyce, are you singing?
Union is behind us. We shall not be moved. The union is behind us. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for our freedom. We shall not be moved. Fighting for our freedom. We shall not be moved. Like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Fighting for our children. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for our children. We shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved.
Yeah.
We got music.
Thank you, Dr. Powell.
Oh, shoot. How come I can't be Frankie Denise today?
Well, you can be Frankie Denise, and luckily for you, God put water down, so I didn't have to go in my yard and get dirty before I came to the screen this morning. I garden to eat, not to look and smell flowers. Okay.
See there. It's got
sustainability. Yes, because
say.
someone on here was talking about sustainability in food desert.
I don't know if
that's me. I garden too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What do you have growing?
I got green peppers, banana peppers, tomatoes, cantaloupe, okra this year. That's all.
Okay,
And herbs, you know, like basil, lavender, mullein. Look, I'm trying to be more herbal because my grandmother was one of those midwives y'all talked about back in the day. So I'm reclaiming my roots and finding out about those things.
Yeah, I do
Bring
a lot of herbs.
Bring me some of each when you come to Fayetteville in a couple of weeks.
Oh, and the cucumbers, I forgot them.
Oh, yeah.
I make a lot of medicine with my herbs. A lot of medicine.